Imagine a roadmap for the soul, a guide penned in sacred wisdom, used to navigate the uncharted metaphysical territory of what lies beyond death itself. Such is the Bardo Thodol, better known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Rooted in the ancient teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, this text invites us to explore the mysterious transitions of consciousness after death, offering profound insight into the nature of life, death, rebirth, and liberation. What if death were not the end, but a threshold, a doorway to spiritual realization or continuation in the cycle of samsara? This is the essence of the Bardo Thodol, a whisper of truth in times of impermanence. First compiled by Padmasambhava, the 8th century founder of Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thodol is not merely a funeral text. It is a spiritual guide, read aloud to the dying or deceased, meant to illuminate the path through the bardos, transitory states that exist between death and rebirth. So immaterial yet urgent are these moments that they often evade human understanding and yet hold the potential for ultimate liberation, a chance to sever the ties binding the soul to suffering and illusion. The word Bardo itself means intermediate state, a liminal zone between different chapters of existence. And according to the Bardo Thodol, the soul encounters 3 primary bardos after death. Each offers both challenges and opportunities for spiritual growth, depending on our ability to recognize truth and detach from illusion. Let us journey through these stages together, unraveling their meanings and their timeless wisdom. The first bardo, known as Chikai Bardo, corresponds to the very moment of death. Imagine the silence after the final breath, the point at which the physical body dissolves and consciousness begins to separate from its earthly confines. Here, the soul encounters the clear light, described in Tibetan Buddhism as the pure, radiant essence of mind itself. It is luminous and transcendent, representing ultimate reality, an unconditioned state beyond fear, beyond form, beyond suffering. For those spiritually prepared, recognizing this clear light can bring instant liberation, an awakening into nirvana itself. It is the soul's chance to be entirely free from the cycles of reincarnation. But for many, the clarity eludes them. In life, we cling to distractions, desires, and our material boundaries. Such attachments blur our ability to embrace the light for what it truly is, the quintessence of consciousness itself. When recognition fails, the journey progresses to the next bardo, not a punishment, but another opportunity to awaken. Whispering, another opportunity to awaken. This brings us to Chonyi Bardo, or the Bardo of Visions. Here, the soul slips into an extraordinary realm where vivid shapes, colors, sounds, and deities begin to manifest. These experiences are deeply tied to one's karmic energy, the residual force of all actions, intentions, and desires accumulated throughout life. Peaceful deities emerge first, radiant and soothing. Then wrathful deities follow, their forms terrifying and chaotic. Yet these figures, whether gentle or ferocious, are mirrors of the mind itself. They are projections, illusions born from the soul's psyche. The text tells us these are not external beings, but representations of our internal spiritual state, like vivid dreams reflecting our deepest truths and fears. For the soul to attain enlightenment during this stage, it must recognize these visions for what they are, impermanent illusions that hold no ultimate power. If the soul can release attachment to fear and longing, it can merge back toward the clear light and transcend. But often the visions overwhelm. The mind clings, reacts, retracts. The pull of the illusions leads many onward, deeper into the whirlwind of karmic echoes, carrying the soul toward rebirth. The final bardo, Sidpa Bardo, marks the 3rd phase, the bardo of becoming or rebirth. Now the soul faces a choice, though it may not be conscious of it. drawn by unresolved desires and attachments, karmic energies act as magnetic forces, pulling the soul toward its next life. In Tibetan Buddhism, this stage calls for both caution and awareness. The sensations in Sidpa Bardo are powerful, a dizzying pull toward forms of life, a cry of an infant calling for incarnation, an overwhelming attraction to bodies offered by parents in worldly existence. Here lies the ultimate crossroads, to choose rebirth or to transcend the cycle altogether. What gives Sidpa Bardo its haunting beauty is also its stark truth. Our attachments to the material world follow us, eternally shaping the paths of samsara, the endless cycle of reincarnation. Karmic patterns persist, forging the conditions for our future lives until we awaken to the reality that they are self-created. Freedom comes only when we step beyond them, when we are ready to release the chains of desire and surrender to wisdom. And so the guidance from the Bardo Thodol rings out, to detach, to trust the light, to seek liberation. Yet this guidance is not just for the dead, nor solely for the dying. It is for the living, too. While the soul journeys through the Bardos after death, much of this wisdom applies to the life we live now, because what Tibetan Buddhism emphasizes is simple yet profound. The present moment at all times holds potential for awakening. If we observe the clear light through spiritual practice in this life, we prepare ourselves for its arrival in death. If we recognize illusions as transient, both in the Chonye visions and the tangible fabric of life, then we loosen the grip of suffering. If we learn to let go of attachments now, we free ourselves from karmic cycles that tether us to rebirth. Importantly, the Bardo Thodol does not preach fear. Rather, it suggests a truth both humbling and empowering. Each soul, regardless of prior deeds or beliefs, possesses the ability to awaken. Every stage, death, visions, rebirth, is an opportunity to see beyond illusion and take refuge in clarity. And as such, death is framed not as an ending, but a transformation, a space where self-awareness and spiritual insight blossom in unimaginable ways. In many ways, the Bardo Thodol reminds us that our journey with consciousness never truly begins or ends. It changes form, just as rivers flow, merge and disappear into oceans. The soul, too, moves between existence, a continuum shaped by wisdom and aspiration, until it is ready to rest in nirvana, the ultimate liberation. For the viewer who may be pondering the meaning of this mystical text, here lies its universal resonance. Life is impermanent. Death is a transition. And yet, within this impermanence lies a profound gift, the ability to transform, the ability to liberate ourselves from suffering and illusion, the ability to reunite with something greater. Whether Buddhist or not, the question it poses is timeless. How will we prepare our minds, not just for the hereafter, but for the truth dawning even now? In closing, the enduring teachings of the Bardo Thodol remind us to honor existence's fleeting moments, to look inward and seek clarity, to live with an awareness that prepares us, lovingly, for the grand unfolding that comes after life's final breath. It is a book not just for the dead, but for the spiritually curious, keeping us tethered to the ultimate wisdom, that consciousness, in its purest form, is luminous, infinite, and always capable of liberation.